so many religions. This is a free-flowing session, interactive session. So you can open up, talk about it, and understand how things are happening here, right? So why do you think there are so many religions which we see? Anybody?
I think every region people have different idea about God.
Every religion have different idea of God. Okay, but why different religions? Because there's only one God, correct? Yes. Anybody else?
Student can use chat also.
Yes, you can use the chat window also if you are not able to unmute and talk about it or talk. Okay, so we are going to discuss this today, and by the end of the session, you will come to know why there are so many religions and why there are different people following different religions. Right? That is what we're going to discuss today. Okay, so let's begin our discussion. Understanding about God, and then a last video about who is Srila Prabhupada. We're going to discuss that. Okay. So now let's take an analogy. Now, if you want to buy a mobile, how many categories or different types of mobiles do you get in the market? Can somebody tell me? A very simple question. How many categories and different types of mobiles do you get? Or you can start writing the types of mobiles. Are you all able to hear me? I don't see any interaction happening. अलग अलग जो मोबाइल की कैटेगरी मिलते हैं वो कौन से कैटेगरी होते हैं?
Android, iPhones.
Okay, Android, iPhones. What else? Android is the only one speaking. Others are not able to speak. What are the other things? Chetan is saying okay. Apple. Okay, so we have got Android, iOS, sorry, Android plus iOS, and what? Any other types of mobile? Only two mobiles. Do we have something called as Windows? There are some mobiles which come with.
Yes.
Then there are some mobiles which come with oxygen. Oxygen ones, right? Now one might ask, oh, if there is only one kind of mobile I want to speak, or I only want to speak, right? Then why different kinds of operating? That is the question we have to ask. Similarly, let's say you have to drive in India. Which side of the road do you drive? You can use the chat windows, guys. Please use the chat windows to type in answer. And I want it to be interactive so that we can make this more interactive session rather than just me speaking. Which side of the road do you drive in India? Left side? Or
left side.
Left side.
Left side.
Right? And what about if I go to yes? What about if I go to the America? Which side of the road do I drive?
Right side.
Right side, correct? So in America or in most of the Europe, other than UK, you drive on the right side. Now, why is the difference? Why is there a difference in terms of being left and right? Because that's the choice the government has made, correct? Now, similar to mobile, we have different categories of mobile. Similar to driving a car or a vehicle, we have different ways in which the car or vehicles can be driven, left or right, right? Similarly, religions are meant for different kinds of people. Different religions are meant for different kinds of people. But God is the same, correct? Now, in case of mobile, my aim of buying a mobile is the same, which is being able to talk on the mobile, check my WhatsApp, check my internet, YouTube, whatever it is, correct? The basis remains the same. The fundamental reason remains the same, but it's different kinds of mobiles. Similarly, when I drive my car, I want to go from one destination to another, but there are different kinds of car and there are different ways of driving the car, correct? So destination is the same, or the basis or the foundation remains the same, correct? So similarly, in religion, there are different ways of achieving God, right? And that is why what we call as different religions, like Hinduism, Christianity, Buddhism, Muslim, Islam, Judaism, Sikhism, Taoism, like that, right? That's why there are different religions for different kinds of people. Not everybody is at the same level. That's why there are different religions, right? Now, every religion talks about similar principles. Now, let's talk about certain principles. Now, every religion talks about approaching a guru, approaching a spiritual master. That is there in every religion, correct? Every religion says, for example, you talk about any religion, talk about Jainism, let's say. There is a guru concept there. You approach a guru. You talk about Islam, you have to have somebody like a guru. You talk about Christianity, you go to the church and there's a padri or different names are there for the priest. You approach them for knowledge, right? So that concept is there in everywhere. In one of the other concepts in all the other religions is God is one, love God. This concept is there. Everybody says the same thing. Nobody differs in this, right? Every religion is saying the same thing. Then the other fundamental concept is obey God's law. Right? Whatever is written in the books, like Quran, Bible, Bhagavad Gita, right? Guru Granth Sahib, and then Jews have their own books, is the same funda, that you obey the God's laws. Whatever God is giving the rules, you have to obey. That is what the concept is, right? Now, return to God's kingdom, same fundamental everywhere. Maybe the details in which they are given is different, but fundamentally, it talks about, every religion talks about going back to God's kingdom. There's a separate kingdom which is called as Swarga in Bhagavad Gita, not Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad Gita or Hinduism, and it is called as heaven in Christianity. In Islam, it is called different, right? So that concept remains the same, right? Obviously, Swarga is not God's kingdom. Swarga is another loka. Also, every religion says sin no more. Don't do any sin. This fundamental remains the same as well. There is no compromise, right? Then glorify the holy name. Every religion, for example, in Judaism, in Christianity, they also chant on their beads. In Islam also, if you're staying near a mosque, you will hear this sound, Allahu Akbar, Allah. Right? You hear this, which means they are glorifying God. Correct? Every day at 5:30 in the morning and then afternoon in the evening, they sing glories of God. Also in Hindu religion, right? We sing names of God. Jai Shri Ram, Hare Krishna, right? Like that. Om Namah Shivaya. So like that, every religion have the basic fundamental remain the same, but the level of details differ. For example, iOS mobile or Apple mobile, maybe the top-notch mobile. Maybe it is the topmost mobile in all the categories. Then probably Android and then Windows and then other mobiles. Right? Just roughly in the categories. Similarly, every religion has got different levels of understanding and different levels of knowledge has been given in every religion. Why is that? Because everybody is not the same level. For example, if you talk about school, now every child in different class is at different levels, right? Ketan is asking question, why Hindu religion has 33? Yeah, I'll talk about it. So every child in different class is actually going to at different level. So for example, a child in 3rd standard or 4th standard. Now, if you give the child a very simple mathematical thing, 44 plus 44, right, the child will be able to do it. But if you give him 90 minus 100, right, and the child will say, no, this is not possible. You cannot take out 100 from 90. But the same sum is given to a 8th standard child or a 6th standard child, where negative numbers are talked about, right? Then the child will be able to answer that. He said, no, minus 10. But the same answer is not possible for a lower grade child, which means the level of these students is different. Similarly, with respect to religion, every person is at different level with respect to being able to understand religion and being able to approach God. That is why there is different levels of people at different religions for different people. Right? That's the basic understanding of God. Also, in all the religions, it talks about sacrifice. For example, Muslims do this roza, where they only eat in the night. Right? That is sacrifice. Then in Hindus, we do fasting on different days. Somwar, some people do Monday fast, some people do Tuesday fast. Everybody does fast. That is sacrifice. Then people do renunciation. In Jainism, you'll see it's all about renunciation. People actually leave their homes and then they go to different places, and then they renounce everything. Right? That is renunciation. Even in Hinduism, there is renunciation. Right? And then there is a renunciation of material pleasure, which means they are giving up everything which they wanted to enjoy. That is called as renunciation of pleasure, right? And that they are giving for a higher purpose. And what is the higher purpose? The higher purpose is to achieve God. Right? So if you look at it, the fundamental remain the same. The basic fundamental remain the same, that God is there. You need to approach a guru to get a God, to get to God. You have to love God, you obey God. All of these things which you talked about, fundamental remains the same, but the details differ. And what are those details is what we want to talk about. Right? Now, the point here is everybody has to follow some sort of religion. You cannot say कि नहीं नहीं हम लोग secular हैं. Secular मतलब क्या? हम लोग सब धर्म को मानते हैं पर कुछ करते कुछ नहीं. That is called atheism. Actually, that is not secularism. Secularism means all religions are equal in my eyes, but I practice one religion, at least one religion. That is called secularism. Secularism मतलब ये नहीं है कि सारे religion same हैं, but मैं कुछ follow नहीं करता. Because every religion is same. That is not secularism. That is called atheism. Because you're not following anything, and then you are talking about secularism. That is called atheism, right? Like that. And this is very, very prevalent nowadays. सब लोग बोलते हैं हाँ मुस्लिम धर्म भी अच्छा है, हिंदू धर्म भी अच्छा है, क्रिश्चियनिटी भी अच्छा है, पर आप क्या करते हो? मैं कुछ नहीं करता, मैं सिर्फ दूर बैठ के बोलता हूँ, right? So I talked about this logic. For elementary child, 2 minus 5 is difficult. For high school, it is normal. And for graduation, like in you guys are in medical science, so maybe maths may not be so much relevant for you guys, but you have learned it in 11th and 12th, right? So advanced mathematics like integration, or algebraic expressions, that is normal for a graduate or an 11th child, right? I request children to go on because there is some background noise, right? So I'm just going to make some settings so that we don't hear the background noise. Yeah, thank you. So the point here is everybody is at a different level. Just bear this in mind. This is very, very important concept. Everybody's different level of understanding of scriptures or God, right? Everybody doesn't have the same understanding. Like one time, one of our friends were going in a train, and at the railway station, one person came and he took a flyer and threw him at him. ऐसा फेंका उसके पास. Worship Jesus, follow Jesus. Otherwise, you will be condemned to hell for eternity. ऐसा बोल के चले गया. Now, what do you mean by this? Now, God is unlimited actually. You cannot limit him by saying Jesus is the only way, or Hinduism is the only way, or Islam is the only way. No. God is unlimited and he can be approached by multiple, roads, multiple paths. You cannot limit him by saying, Jesus is the only way. Hinduism is the only way. That is called as limited, concocted understanding of God. उसी में गड़बड़ हो जाता है. And because of that, what you see right now, there is so much of chaos, so much of fighting on the name of religion. Actually, वो religion के लिए fight नहीं कर रहे. They are fighting because they do not understand what is concept of religion. One time, one of our saints, he is an American. He's an American born, but he came to India for enlightenment. And he was talking to one person in one of the cities. And this other guy was Muslim. And this Richard, he was Jew by birth, but he was studying different religions. And then another Hindu person came. And both of them were talking very nicely. And then both of them were, respecting each other. And then both of them talked about different concepts of God. And then the Hindu fellow went away. And then this Richard asked him, the Muslim guy, hey, you are Hindu, you are Muslim. How come you know so much about Hinduism? And how come you respect Hinduism so much? Right? The Muslim guy looked at Richard and he said, you know what, Richard? A dog is loyal to his master no matter what dress the master comes in. कोई भी वेश में मेरा मास्टर आ जाए, the dog will recognize him. Similarly, if I do not understand that God is one, but he's got different names of Allah, Krishna, Rama, Jehovah, right? Then I have not understood religion. I have not understood God. If I do not recognize him in the form of Allah, Ram, Krishna, Jehovah as the same person, I have lost it. I have lost the fundamental understanding of God, which means the Muslim person was trying to convey is, even though you might be a Hindu, even though you might be a Christian, even though you might be a Muslim, you have to understand that your religion is not the only way of understanding God. There are multiple other ways and you should respect them. That is the point this person was trying to convey, right? Exactly the point which he is trying to convey, which is very, very important in the current era which we are living. If we have a very, very narrow approach, नहीं, हमारा Hinduism सबसे अच्छा है, you lost it. नहीं, हमारा Muslim Islam ही सबसे अच्छा है. You have not understood God. God is not exposing you because you have a very, very narrow understanding of the religion, right? Religion actually comes from the Greek word religram, which means dharma, which means connecting to God, right? And actually in the scripture, there is nothing called as Hinduism. Actually, there is nothing called as Hinduism. The original Vedas talked about Sanatana Dharma. But when Muslims invaded India, there was a river called as Sindhu. And they could not spell Sindhu S, that's why they would say Hindu. So they would say people who live across the river of Sindhu, which is Hindu, they call them Hindu. So actually there's nothing called as Hindu or Muslim in any of the Vedas. If you talk about the original Vedas or Bhagavad Gita, there's nothing called as Islam or Christianity or Hinduism. It is one Veda. It is one original Sanatana Dharma Veda from which all the other Vedas have come. It's what I'm going to explain now. Right? So Islam talks about basic principles of religion. Like you should not eat pig or dog. It is considered a very, very lower species of animal. Christianity talks about how you should eat meat except Friday. Whereas in Sanatana Dharma, it is considered as a sin if you eat meat. It's a pillar of sin, sinful life, right? And obviously there is some concession for people who cannot at all give up meat eating. There is a concession, right? So in Sanatana Dharma, the Shastras talk about how for very, very few people, there is a concession. For example, there is, let's say a city. Now there are multiple cities in India. In Gujarat, if you go, I went to Junagadh a couple of years back. And in Junagadh, it's a city in Gujarat, very, very close to Dwarka. In this city and many, many places in Gujarat, it is, there is no alcohol shops, no meat shops allowed, right? Ban hai pura. Now, if let's say a drunkard comes in the city and he goes to the chief minister or the authority of the city and says, ki, I want to, drink. Right now, let's say the chief minister or the city mayor gives him a permission, saying कि ठीक है तुमको allowed है on these days from this shop. Let's just for the argument's sake, right? And he's allowed. That is what is talked about in the Sanatana Dharma, which means people who cannot give up meat eating, right? Because there will always be some people. For example, if you talk about banning drinking, there will be some people who will say कि नहीं हमको तो पीना ही है बाबा, कुछ भी कर लो. Like in the last lockdown, in last March or April, after the lockdown, the first shop it was open was the alcohol shop, and there was huge queues to get alcohol. So there will be people. So that's how the scriptures have been made to provide some provision कि आपको अगर खाना है तो ऐसे ऐसे कर खाना पड़ेगा. ऐसे in Sanatana Dharma scriptures it is written that if you have to eat meat, you have to kill it yourself. You have to kill the animal. On Amavasya day, you have to go to a certain place, cut the animal in such a way so that the animal doesn't have much pain. Minimum pain होना चाहिए उसको. और उसके बाद उसके 10 टुकड़े करो and then distribute those 9 parts to other people who want to eat meat, and then you eat only 1 part. That is how the provision is made, right? Which means कि जैसे हम यहाँ पे provision करते हैं. For example, now if you want to sell liquor, you have to have a license. If you want to drive a car, you have to have a license. Similarly, there is a certain license given for people who want to eat meat. But in other religions, it is not the case. All of the people who are in that religion, they can eat, which means there is certain difference in terms of religion as well. Right? We'll talk about it in more detail. Now let's look at how old are these religions. Islam is 1300, Christianity is 2000, Buddhism is 2500, and Bhagavad Gita was spoken 5000 years back. Right? There are scriptures which talk about it, and there are proofs how Bhagavad Gita was spoken 5000 years back, because Kurukshetra war was happened at the end of Dwapar Yuga and at the start of Kali Yuga. That's why it was spoken 5000 years back. But actually, Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita long back at the time of creation. He spoke to Vivaswan. Vivaswan is the sun god. So when entire universe was created, Brahma created the entire universe. Sun god was also created. Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to sun god. He said that in Bhagavad Gita 4.1. Imam Vivasvate yogan proktavanaham abhyam Vivaswani manave praha manurikshvaku abravit. I spoke this Bhagavad Gita to sun god long time back. And he again spoke to Arjuna 5000 years back, which means at least the Sanatana Dharma is 5000 years back, if not old. It is actually lakhs and lakhs of years of old, right? But the other religions are coming from Sanatana Dharma. That's why we are calling Sanatana Dharma as Hindu. Hinduism and Sanatana Dharma actually are not the same, in the sense that there is nothing called as Hinduism, right? Like that. Okay. Okay, so this is how it is, and this is based on certain facts which have been proven, right? Like that. So Sanatana Dharma means eternal religion. Basically, religion is eternal, which means our connection to God is eternal. There is no temporary nature there, right? We are all connected to God from eternity. Okay, that's why it's called Sanatana Dharma. Now let's look at certain aspects of Dharma. Okay, now this is from one book called as Jaiva Dharma, which was written by a very great saint. Now, what are the similarities? In Sanatana Dharma, soul is called as Jiva, Atma is called as Jiva, whereas in Islam it's called Ruh. The spiritual part, Chit part is called as Chit, where it is called as Mujarrad. Material elements are called as Jism here, the body. Conscious liberated soul, right? Basically, Mukti Jiva हम बोलते हैं उसको. मतलब person who has liberated from this material world, who is not attached to this material world, उसको मुक्त जीव बोलते हैं सनातन धर्म में. And in Islam it's called as Ruha Mujarrad. Baddha Jeev means people like us who are conditioned and imprisoned in this material world. In last session it would have been spoken that what is material world and spiritual world. Material world is this world which we talk about, where we are been imprisoned because of our tendency to enjoy separate from God, right? That is called as conditioned soul. We are conditioned to this material world, Baddha Jeev. Whereas in Islam it's called Ruho Tarkibi. Impurity, Malaput. Then spiritual world, which is Parayoma, it's called Alama Mashal. Right? Love of God, Prem is called Ishq. That's Ishq word is coming from that, and that has been used for in many movies for different cases, which is not actually the right word. Right? Then God or Ishwar is called as Khoda. Soul is eternal servant of God. Jivera Swarup hai Krishna and Nityadas. And in Islam it is said, Ruh remains an eternal servitor, Banda of Khoda. Now what you see here is, there are so many commonalities. In fact, it's actually the same thing, right? But the level of detail will vary. I'll talk about it. Yes. Do they say the same thing? Yes. Now there was a conversation between one Kazi and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and this is what has been mentioned here, right? All the words which we talk about in Sanatana Dharma are more or less the same, right? More or less the same. Every soul will taste death. The life of this world is but of illusion. Everything, the basic fundamental remain the same. Okay. Now, let's talk about Sanatana Dharma and Christianity. What are the difference? Right? Now, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, that abode of mine is not illumined by sun or moon, nor by electricity. One who reaches it never returns to this material world. So, Krishna spoke this to Arjuna in 15.6. And what does Bible say? Let's see. And there's another verse, Loka in Shotashrupanasa. In the spiritual world, there is no sun required. There is no moons or no stars because the spiritual world itself is illuminated. अपने आप से illuminated. वहाँ पे you don't need a sun, right? Now what does the Christianity say? And there shall be no night there, and they no candle, neither light of sun. For the Lord God give them light, and they shall reign forever. This is in Bible version Rev 22.5, right? Now in Bhagavad Gita 7.2, Krishna is saying, I shall now declare into you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal, material, and nominal, means spiritual, by knowing which there shall not be anything more to be known. मतलब क्या? Krishna is telling Bhagavad Gita Arjun saying, I have given you everything. पूरा syllabus दे दिया है. पूरा syllabus. कुछ बचा नहीं है. But what does Bible say? Jesus said this in Bible to people, the fisherman. There is much that I have to tell you, but you cannot understand it. You cannot understand it. It is similar to telling a algebraic or an integral equation to a second year or third grade child, right? Because they will not be able to understand. I mentioned this earlier as well, and I am repeating this because this is the most important point in this entire session. Every living being is at a different level of consciousness with respect to God and religion. They are not the same. Why are not the same? Because every living being is coming through different lives, and their consciousness changes depending upon the life. So they are not at the same level. Okay? That's why there was a need to give different levels of scriptures. For example, Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Krishna to Arjun, who Arjun is a highly elevated soul. Arjun is not an ordinary soul. Arjun is the associate of God. He is always associating with Krishna or God in every different leelas which he is performing. Right? Even when he came to this material world, he was one of the best archers. He defeated Shiva. He defeated Indra. He was able to go to the heaven in his same body. He could use both hands for throwing arrows. His Gandiv, which is the bow and arrow, was so famous that by just twanging the bow, everybody in the world could understand this is Arjuna's bow. Everybody would, be fearful of facing him. That was the, level of Arjun. And to the extent when he went to heaven, Urvashi saw that Arjun is looking at her. And because he was looking at her as a descendant, which means one of their descendants, what is his name? Pururava was actually in relationship with Urvashi. So he was looking, saying, Arey, Pururava was by one of my ancestors, and Urvashi is the same lady. Because he had heard in the stories. So he was looking with dignity and honor and respect. And Urvashi thought he wanted to enjoy. So Urvashi called her in her chambers, and she said, you are looking at me, do you want to enjoy? And Arjun said, no. I was looking at it in the respect of a mother. I don't want to enjoy. And she said, no. In the heavenly planets, there are no rules like in the earthly planets. You can enjoy in any capacity. ऐसा कुछ rules नहीं इधर, right? तो अर्जुन ने बोला नहीं, एक बार मैंने बोला ना कि आपको माँ बोला है, तो that's final. I cannot change my view, no matter what happens. And Urvashi cursed him. So the point here is Arjun was such a self-controlled person. If it was any other normal person, you could have said, ठीक है भाई चलो, अगर यहाँ पे rule का problem नहीं है, तो enjoy कर लेते हैं, correct? The point here is Arjun was such a highly elevated soul that he could control his senses. He was highly valued. The value system was high class for him. And he was the associate of Krishna. That is the person who Krishna spoke the. ऐसा कोई ऐरा गैरा नत्थु खैरा नहीं था वो, जिसको भगवद गीता बोला गया था. इसीलिए सबसे एडवांस टॉपिक उसको दिया गया. But in the case of Christianity, again, I am repeating this for the sake of not being misunderstood. I am not saying Christianity or Islam or any other religion is low. I am only talking about different levels of understanding. Right? So please don't misunderstand me. I respect all the religions. We respect all the religions. And I believe that if people in each religion follow their religion truly, they will be able to reach God. Correct? But for the sake of understanding, we are talking about in the sense which I am talking about. Right? So don't misunderstand me. Don't misunderstand me. Jesus spoke to few fishermen. They were fishermen, the initial people who he spoke to. So they were not at a very, very elevated stage. I'm not saying fishermen are not, but those people are not. So that's why he had to give them basic understandings of Dharma. He had to tell them there are 10 commandments. First commandment is don't kill. Thou shalt not kill. That was the first commandment, because people were killing, left, right, and center. Then he had to tell them different rules. Do not lie. Follow God's law. I said, that's commandments. Those are basic commandments. He said, just follow these basic commandments. And he said, there is much that I can give it to you, but you cannot bear it. तुम्हारे पास इतना capacity नहीं लेने का. Correct? But Arjun के पास capacity था. That's why he was able to tell Bhagavad Gita in 45 minutes, and Arjun understood. And the same Bhagavad Gita, many researchers, philosophers are trying to understand. नहीं समझ में आ रहा. Because this science is not a simple science. You have to be very elevated to understand that. Right? That's the one difference. Different religions, same message, but different level. Right? Now let's talk about different depths of verifiable and inconceivable information with us. Right? Holy Bible says, God said, let there be light, and there was light. Let there be creation, and there was creation. Which means there is no more details. कि कैसे सूर्य आया, कैसे अर्थ बना, नहीं पता, उसमें नहीं लिखा है. But in Bhagavatam, which is the Sanatana Dharma, talks about step-by-step process of creation. If you look at Canto 2, there are 18 volumes of books, and in Canto 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam, it gives a detailed description how this creation was formed. It talks about how one small, spherical portion was formed out of the spiritual world, and then there was one Vishnu was lying, like you can see in the picture, and from the pores of him, millions and millions of universes were formed. ऐसा detailed description है, कैसा सब कुछ बना, and then how Brahma created. It is given in a very detail. एक पूरा कैंटो, लगभग 1000 पेजेस का एक बुक उस पे ऊपर है, क्रिएशन कैसे बना, पूरा सृष्टि का निर्माण कैसे हुआ. Then there is the 5th canto which talks about the different level of 14 planetary systems. ऊपर के earthly planets, स्वर्ग लोक वगैरह, and नीचे के नरक के planets, वो भी दिया गया है. Just 1 minute, I'll just switch on the light. It's getting dark. So it talks about so much details, right? So if you can see, the level of details is totally different, right? Many religions say God is great. भगवान बहुत महान है. कितने महान है, क्या महान है, right? They don't talk about it. They only talk about God is great, God is love, God is almighty. But कितने महान है? But if you look at Bhagavatam, one of the Sanatana Dharma's books, right? It talks in detail. भगवान कहाँ रहते हैं, क्या करते हैं, क्या खाते हैं. Like you can see in the picture, Krishna is eating with his friends. What all does he like? What all does he wear? What all does he look like? उसकी आंखें कैसे, नाक कैसे, सब कुछ डिटेल में लिखा है. There's one sloka I will recite and you will understand. बरहापीडं नटवरवपुकर्णयो कर्णिकारं विप्रतवासकनककपिशं वैजन्तीं च मालां रन्ध्रां वेणुरदरसूरया पूरयन् गोपवृन्दे वृन्दारण्यं सपदरमणं प्राविशात् गीतकीर्ते. This sloka is explaining how exactly Krishna looks. He's wearing a peacock feather. He's wearing, a Vaijanti mala. He's wearing, yellow garments. He's got a flute in his hand and he's playing the flute. And, he's got Kaustuba jewel. Like that, exactly all the details are given. His eyes are like lotus petals. And Bhagavatam is full of such scriptures. Bhagavatam is full of such descriptions. I only spoke about one verse. There are many verses. Buddhi Maharana said, Namo Pankaj Nabhaya, Namo Pankaj Maline, Namo Pankaj Netraya, Namaste Pankajangrehe. She's saying, your belly is looking like a lotus petal. Your eyes are like lotus petal. You are wearing a garland of lotus petal. Like that, every detail is given. And it is given where does he stay? What does he do there? Brahma is talking about it. Right? Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Vandaravinda Dalayatakshan Parhavapam Bhavastitam Buddhasundarangam Kandarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobha. He's talking about the entire spiritual world. How does it look like? And how does Krishna, what exactly does Krishna do there? पूरा डिटेल दिया गया है. इतना ही नहीं, how do you call Krishna, ये भी दिया गया है. कृष्ण का कॉन्टैक्ट नंबर भी दिया गया. What is that? There is a mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. This mantra is given which you can directly call and Krishna will, listen to you. The point here is, there is enough details given in Sanatana Dharma to know God and understand His greatness and understand His love. His greatness is also given. How, He lifts Govardhan mountain, how he creates his entire universe, how actually his entire universe is seen in his mouth. सब कुछ दिया गया है. Another analogy given is a dictionary. Now there is a pocket dictionary, right? Now you can tell me, does a pocket dictionary have all the words which we need? You can use the chat window to type in your answers. Does a pocket dictionary have all the words which you need? Anybody? Come on, guys, let's be a little interactive. There are about 40 participants. Not one is also participating. Thoda interactive karte hain. Yes, Pandurang is the only one being speaking. What about the others? Yes. Yes. So we won't get all the words. So what does a pocket dictionary have? Pocket dictionary has only limited number of words. Right? It's given here. If you look at the picture, 1,40,000 words. Right? That is the only words which are there in the pocket. But that's not the only words in English. There are so many. So we have a bigger word, which bigger dictionary is called a Chambers dictionary. The Chambers dictionary is the encyclopedia of all the words, which means इसमें सब कुछ है. You will not even miss a word. And obviously it is revised every year and every 6 months. Similarly, the Sanatana Dharmas, the Vedas, the original Vedas we're talking about, has everything that you need to know about God, everything that you need to know about in the creation. But again, I am repeating this for the sake of understanding that Bible, Quran, and other scriptures, they are like pocket dictionary. There is enough for one person to progress, but that is not all in all. Right? Again, with all due respect to all the religions, we are not saying they are low. We're just comparing between the contents. And I just give two, three examples how this is compared. Right? So Sanatana Dharma, like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, is Chambers dictionary, full edition, सब कुछ है उसमें. And other scriptures like Quran, Bible, वगैरह, they're pocket dictionary. There is enough for you to understand, but it is limited understanding of God. Right? Yeah. So now there is Srimad Bhagavatam, there is first shloka where it's talk about how this creation was formed. Who created it? Right? Janmadhasyato anavayad itrashchatheshva abhigya swarat. That's the first shloka, which talks about how God created everything and who is God, like that. Then let's look at some other examples. Jesus claims in Bible himself to be Son of God. For whosoever shall call upon the name of the God shall be revealed. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed thy name. Which he's saying basically, our Father lives in heaven and we call him by his name. And in Quran it is said, and we have got some references also. Muhammad calls himself Prophet of God. Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Muhammad is not the father of any other man, but he is the messenger of Allah. That's what he's saying. Right? And Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying in 10.8, Aham sarvasya prabho matta sarvam pravartadeti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. He's saying, I am the source of all the spiritual material worlds. Never in Bible or Quran you will find Allah saying I am God and I am here and I am this. Right? This is Muhammad saying, or in Bible Jesus is saying. Whereas in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is speaking himself. He is himself saying this, right? That is one another understanding of God. The names of God we talked about, Krishna and Christ. Christ comes from the Greek word Christos, and Christos is the Greek version of Krishna, which is Krishna himself. Krishna means in Greek object of attraction, and Krishna in Sanskrit means one who is 100% attractive. One who is very, very attractive, and Krishna is attractive, God is attractive. So Christ or Krishna or Krishna is the same, right? Okay. Now, names of God, obviously there are different religions, called different names, similar to the sun. Now, sun can be called in different names, right? We call Ravi, Surya, Bhaskar, Aditya, Dinkar, different names, but it's the same sun, right? In Europe and in other countries, the sun may be called by different names, but why sun? Similarly, there is one God, but called in different names, like that. We talked about this at the start of the session. Now, God has got various roles. In this material world, in this world which we see, he creates, maintains, and destroys. So all of you know Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. Brahma creates, which is the secondary creation. Vishnu maintains, and Shiva destroys. Right? And he comes, see Bhagavad Gita, he says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati dharta abhittanam adharmasya pradatmayam sujamiham. He basically comes to establish religion. Because there are many demons who destroy religion. So वो वापस establish करने के लिए आते हैं. And अपने devotees को बचाने के लिए आते हैं. Correct? Now, in spiritual world, which is beyond this world, he's enjoying. God is enjoying and we were also enjoying. We actually revolted against God. God को बोला कि भाई हमको तुम्हारे साथ नहीं रहने का, मुझे अलग से रहने का. And that was spoken in the 5th session, so I'm not going to go in details. And we have to be, come to this material world where we are suffering now. And our idea is, and which all the religions talk about, is we want to go back to the kingdom of God. जहाँ पे सुख शांति है. It is called Vaikuntha. There is no Kuntha. The Kuntha means no miseries. Imagine there is no corona. Imagine you don't have to study all, fat books of medical science. Imagine you don't have to work. You just have to enjoy with Krishna. That is spiritual world. Now you might be saying, ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है? ऐसे ही है, हमको पता नहीं. मैं लेके चलूं तुझे ऐसे गगन के तले, जहाँ गम भी न हो, आंसू भी न हो, बस प्यार ही प्यार पले. This is not a song, only song. Imagine the song नहीं है. This is the actual reality. If you look at the Shastras, if you look at Sanatana Dharma, this talks about how we can go back to spiritual world. Okay? So every religion talks about justice, reward, punishment. Right? Every religion talks about it. ये करोगे तो ये मिलेगा. ये करोगे तो ये मिलेगा. Right? But God only doesn't talk about that. God only doesn't say कि नहीं तुमको punishment मिलेगा. God also talks about how by serving Him we can go back to Him. That is the ultimate understanding of God. Right? Like that. So there are different platforms on which we can actually understand God. We start from fear platform. So one example which I talked about, the person who came and said, worship Jesus, otherwise you will be condemned to hell for eternity. मतलब क्या? डर है ना? Jesus को worship नहीं करूँगा तो मुझे नरक जाना पड़ेगा. That is the level of fear. Many people are at that level. One of my friends, he said कि मैं रोज गणपति को नहीं जाता तो मेरे को डर लगता है कि मेरा कुछ गड़बड़ ना हो जाए. अरे भाई, those gods are not there to give you any harm. वो लोग उसके लिए नहीं बैठे. पर हम लोग डरते हैं, अरे बाप रे, मैंने पूजा नहीं किया तो मेरा सब गड़बड़ हो जाएगा, मैं अगर ये नहीं करूँगा तो गड़बड़ हो जाएगा. That is not actually the right understanding. That is the lowest understanding. It's better than being atheist, but that's still the lowest understanding. कि आपको डर लगता है भगवान से कि मैं ऐसे करूँगा तो गलत होगा. That is good. That is some level. It is good. It is required also. But the highest understanding is not that. People actually are scared of God. कि भाई मैंने 16 सोमवार नहीं किया तो मेरे को one time there was one of my colleagues told me this story. Her son was not well, and the mother-in-law of this lady, she wanted to perform one ritual at home, and that ritual wanted that the mother and the child and the father sit together, right? But the child was not well, उसको बुखार था. So the mother said to the mother-in-law कि उसको बुखार है, उसको छोड़ दो, उसको रहने दो ना. We will sit, both of us will sit. तो नहीं उसको चाहिए ही चाहिए. Ritual का part है वो, he needs to be there. तो उसको बुखार था, उसको नहलाया और उसको बिठाया ऐसे. Imagine. Basically the point here is just because वो ritual नहीं करेंगे तो हमारा कुछ बुरा हो जाएगा. You are taking the extreme step of given so much discomfort to a child. That is called level of fear. Then the next level is desire. मुझे कुछ चाहिए. A lot of people go to the temple, mosque or this thing and say धनम देहि, विद्यम देहि, ये देहि, वो देहि. ऐसा बोलते हैं लोग क्योंकि उनको desire है मन में. There is this very famous song. Om Jaya Jagadish Hare, कष्ट मिटे तन का, और कुछ चाहिए बोलते हैं ना वो लोग. I forget the song now, right? But it talks about how your desires are unlimited desires. सुख संपत्ति घर आवे, कष्ट मिटे तन का. मतलब क्या? सुख आए घर पे, संपत्ति आए और कष्ट मिटे. That is desire. भगवान के पास किसी आते हैं हम लोग? Desire. कुछ चाहिए मेरे को. उसके मंदिर में जाते हैं, 1 रुपए का कॉइन डालते हैं और बोलते हैं भगवान मुझे प्लीज वो 5 लाख रुपए का लॉटरी लगने दो. मतलब क्या? 1 रुपए डाल रहे और 5 लाख रुपए एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हो भगवान. दैट इज कॉल्ड डिजायर. एंड देन द ड्यूटी मतलब क्या? हमारे परदादा करते हैं ना, तो हम इसलिए इन भगवान की पूजा करते हैं. गणपति को हम हर साल पूजा करते हैं. क्यों करते हैं? हमारे परदादा करते हैं, हमको नहीं पता क्यों करते. गणपति को क्यों डिबोते हो हमें नहीं पता, वो लोग करते थे ना इसलिए हम लोग करते. दैट इज ड्यूटी. पता नहीं है, फिलोसफी पता नहीं है क्यों करते हैं, कर रहे हैं ड्यूटी के लिए. एंड द लास्ट इज लव. मतलब इंटरनली खुद से अंदर से आ रहा है कि भाई भगवान मैं तुमसे प्रेम करता हूँ इसलिए तुम्हारी मैं आरती करता हूँ रोज, मैं तुम्हारा नाम जप करता हूँ. दैट इज लव. दैट इज ओरिजिनल कॉन्शियसनेस. मन से आ रहा है. दैट इज लव. दिस विल बी डिस्कस्ड इन मोर डिटेल इन द लेटर सेशंस. ओके, सो that is we got still got 10 minutes, so I'm just checking how big is this video. You can play this.
Bharatvarsha, India's profound culture filled with penetrating
Are
answers.
you able to hear the sound? Can one of you confirm? Were you able to hear the sound of the video? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
To man's deepest questions has long guided thought in the Eastern and Western world. Ancient philosophers like Pythagoras, medieval thinkers like Voltaire, modern scientists like Schrödinger, Heisenberg, and messengers such as Swami Vivekananda accepted Indian philosophy for guidance and inspiration. Yet the purpose of this culture remained unknown, hidden in the hearts of India's greatest mystics. Thus, 50 years ago, in 1965, this rarefied essence was carried by a compassionate 70-year-old saint, Srila Prabhupada, to the shores of the Western world. Embarking on this difficult transatlantic voyage, experiencing 2 heart attacks on his 38 days aboard.
They were so serious. I was attacked by heart attack. I got the sick twice.
This embodiment of India's sacred teachings set out alone with an impossible wish to spark a revolution of the individual heart, to fill it with purpose in a world of uncertainty, with joy in times of difficulty on an international scale. This gift was the teachings of Bhagavad Gita as it has been practiced for millennia, as it is, along with its original Vedic Krishna conscious culture. By his character and his compassion, Srila Prabhupada's systematic and scientific presentation of Krishna consciousness penetrated the very hearts of all those who heard him.
In America, in September 1965, my mission is to preach the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
And within a mere 3 years of his arrival, a genuinely international society, ISKCON, manifested globally inspiring teachings of Indian A. Arts, such as painting, music, instruments, and exhibitions. B. Books, particularly his magnum opus, the literary and intellectual jewel, Srimad Bhagavatam. C. Cuisine, the entire suite of exotic Indian vegetarian preparations, mastered by generations of cooks and enthusiastically embraced by boys and girls over the standard cow flesh, alcohol, drugs, coffee, tea, and even the onion and garlic. D. Dressing, men with dhoti kurta, women in saris, all with tilak. E. Etiquettes, respect to elders, the saintly, and to God. F. Following the cultural pathway, Sanskriti, for example, introducing the sanctity of Vedic marriage with all its duty and its commitment. G. A God-centric program, establishing a personal relationship with the Lord in the form of exquisite deity worship, performed communally with kirtan, distribution of Mahaprasad, and worship. H. A healthy lifestyle with regulation, such as rising early in the morning, and pure habits, such as bathing upon rising. I. Indian ethics, establishing the value from scriptures, such as Ramayana and Mahabharata, of a life filled with perseverance, tolerance, and humility over personal appearance, education, and wealth. J. Jolly dancing in kirtans to worship the Lord. Srila Prabhupada's teachings were centered on the essence of India's wisdom, that the constant chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, or as he called it, the great chant for deliverance, was capable of revolutionizing the world.
If you kindly become Krishna conscious and chant and dance in ecstasy, emotional love of God, the whole world will follow you and it will be Vaikuntha, there will be no more trouble. Thank you very much.
His gifts to India included 3 major centers of culture and education in 1. Bombay, the economic capital of India. 2. Vrindavan, India's foremost place of worship. And 3. Sriram Mayapur, ISKCON's international headquarters. Srila Prabhupada's unprecedented achievements have created an imperishable legacy. Their magnitude is understood only in terms of how the world has changed since his arrival on Western shores. Indians are now valued not only for their technical competence, but also for their character, their holistic culture, and their loving devotion to the Lord. Today, his students form a body of...
Okay, so I think we are nearing the close of the session. We have only 5 minutes, so we can take some questions. There is already one question, so I'll just answer that. And meanwhile, others can type in their questions in the chat window. The question was from Ketan: why Hindu religion have 33 crore gods? Yeah. So similar to Indian government has got one prime minister, and there are multiple ministers. There are so many ministers who help the prime minister in. For example, there is a minister for railways, home ministry, then there is minister for finance. So similarly, these 33 crore gods are the ministers for the original God. Right? For example, Indra is in charge of the rains. So he is responsible for the water. Then there is Moon, who is responsible for giving enrichment to the plants. Sun is responsible for heat and light. So like that, there are 33 crore gods, small gods, who are helping or serving, let me say, the big god, which is Krishna, the original God. That's why we have so many gods, but they are not supposed to be actually worshipped. The small god, the big god is the one who is supposed to be worshipped. Okay, any more questions? Are there any other questions? So what we saw at the end was a video of Srila Prabhupada. He is one of the greatest ambassador of Sanatana Dharma, and he took the entire Sanatana Dharma to the America, and he was able to basically convince a lot of people that Sanatana Dharma is original and we can follow that, which is nothing to do with the dogmatic understanding of the current world. There's one question. It says how to put faith. Can you just elaborate? What is the question? Just how to put faith. Okay, if there are no more questions, I'll ask a question so that you get involved. Now, if there is one God and then there are different religions of different levels, why are there fighting between different religions? Can somebody tell me? You'll be able to answer this if you heard the session clearly, carefully. If there is one God, every religion is supposed to take the same God. Why are there fighting between religions, or why people fight over religions?
They have different consciousness about God.
Consciousness. Okay. Any other answers? If you have understood the concept of whatever is talked today, can you just type in yes in the chat window so I know you guys are understood? Just type in yes in the chat window if you understood whatever we covered today. If you're not, then just type in no. Okay, Shiv Shankar, thank you. What did you do? Okay, I got only 5-6 responses so far. There are 44 people in the session. 34 now. Yeah. Okay, good. So that is good. So the point here is basically everybody is thinking mine is the only religion. This is the only religion. There is no other religion. That narrow-mindedness is actually created the problem in the society. And whatever you see currently in the society, that people are fighting over Hindu and Muslim, that is only a superficial understanding of God. That is not the real understanding. Okay, any other questions? By the way, it is Pratiksha Shinde's birthday today. Let's wish her a very, very happy birthday. In fact, it's a very, very auspicious day today. It's a New Year, Gudi Padwa. Let us wish all the best for her future, and let she get all the blessings. Okay, any other questions? We got 1 more minute. If there are any questions, we can take. Otherwise, we can close the session. So I would encourage you. Today is a very, very auspicious day to take this opportunity to take a sankalpa that you will chant your rounds, because I think the mantra meditation session was conducted a couple of weeks back. So please take this seriously. You can chant your rounds, maybe 1 or 2 rounds every day. It will take hardly 10 to 15 minutes. That will actually help you a lot in your studies and in your life to take on a lot of stress and overcome stress, because a lot of students, a lot of people are nowadays under stress, and they are actually under stress because they do not know how to overcome stress. So please take it seriously and take up chanting, and that will help you to become a better human being. Okay. So thank you so much for your time, kind attention today, and I hope the session was useful for you to understand how there are different gods with different understanding, but the ultimate aim is the same, to connect to the original God. Thank you so much.
I thank actually Anand Patil sir. Although such a busy schedule, he is wanted all or many IITs invited by so many prestigious institute, but still he has accepted a request to give our students have an audience with him, and has a question that had given a essence of all the things. Otherwise we have a misunderstanding in this thing only. If God is one, then why many so religion? And he has nicely clarified the question. If God is one, then why we are fighting on the name of religion? So thank from core of heart. On the auspicious day of Gudi Padwa, he has given us essence. Otherwise, in the today's date, there are so many distractions, and there is only one hope to take a from religion. We can have a hope, but in the religion also, how one can be distracted. So sir had clarified us. So I thank sir, and we request sir kindly give his time next time also. We'll request. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so we'll end the session.
Yes, sir. And I thank all the students for patiently on today's auspicious day, and giving patiently hearing for today's session. Thank all of you and wish you very happy new year. And sir has very nicely told that we can take a resolution on this sankalpa of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, that very builds our personality and very solid determination, follow the path of principles in our career, in our day life, today to life. So thank you all of you. Thank you, sir, again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.